Hello! I am Meticulous Ace, and today I'll be bringing you an in-depth look at a newly released early access title called Kingdoms Reborn. If you've seen this game before and you're curious about purchasing it, you've found the right video. I'll cover a multitude of things in this title, and give you an honest review as I go along. So what is Kingdoms Reborn? Well, it's a city building / colony simulation game that focuses more on an economic kind of survival. You build a city from practically nothing and work your way up through the science tree to advance your civilization into the future. Seasons change, people die of old age, and new challenges arrive as you progress. So let's dive right in and talk about world generation. The maps are randomly generated and use seeds to create a map. There are, however, some parameters that allow you to fine-tune certain aspects of the terrain. Options like sea level, temperature, mountain density, and a few others. You can create some pretty good-looking maps if you tinker with the selections for a little bit. Once the map is created, random resource tiles are created. These resources can be natural resources that require a technology further along in the tech tree to be harvested, or bonuses which you can collect immediately. Currently, there are 3 types of instant resource bonuses that you can come across. There are villages, which invite people to join your city and increase its population. Supply crates, which instantly fill your inventory with a special resource. Or ancient artifacts, which when discovered, give you a bonus card that enhances the production of your buildings. We'll talk about cards a little later. The world generation in Kingdoms Reborn makes for an interesting and new experience every time you play. But it still has one con that I'd like to mention. Each time you generate a map, the world has an equator line that's supposed to mimic the real global equator that we have on Earth. The only problem is that it's in the same exact spot. It draws a straight line across the map so that the biome placement on each map is nearly identical. It's desert or jungle right in the center, and then on the outside of that is forests or meadows, and then it's boreal ice tiles right above that. I personally think that the equator direction and placement should be randomized, that way so every map has a completely different climate instead of maps being 70% desert right in the center. The game is still in early access, so this may change in time. That's it for world generation though. Let's talk about building towns. Kingdoms Reborn uses a card system, much like you'd see in a board game. It's quite interesting, and it's a good addition to a city building game. I actually like it. Basically, you have a deck that you draw from, and each card has a special building that you can build. If you want to draw additional cards, you have to pay gold to shuffle the deck. There's a timer that allows you to draw from the deck for free once it ticks down to 0. So if you don't have any gold, you just have to wait a short while. The card system leans players into a more strategical method of placing buildings, instead of allowing players to place 10 of the same building at one time. This doesn't prevent you from making some wonderful looking towns though. It's a great blend of strategy and creative freedom. There are special cards that aren't for building that you'll receive when you play. These are the cards that I mentioned earlier. These cards can be placed in your buildings to increase their production speed and product output, making them very valuable. Another class of cards are what I like to call action cards. They allow you to sell half of your food for money or buy wood resources. These cards need some work, I think, just because when they're used in certain ways, the game becomes really easy. So some minor balances are needed really, but we'll see if they show up in the future builds of this game. There's also a multiplayer feature, which is amazingly fun when you have friends that enjoy building cities like you do. There really isn't a co-op mode per se, but you can help each other out if you want to. You have to reach 500,000 gold to win, and whoever reaches that will be the winner, so there's really no team play yet. There's no war or conflict system yet either, other than a very basic taxation feature where you tax players and AI players by generating a large amount of influence points, but it's still very basic. Now one last thing that I'll touch on is the game's AI. It's kind of in a rough state. There aren't really mechanics that efficiently control your population. And there have been many improvements since the last couple of updates, but it's still a little rough. Sometimes AI can get stuck in buildings or switch tasks that prevent them from eating and they die. And as your population grows, these issues become more apparent. Hopefully, this issue in the future is cleared up. It's not really a game breaker, but it does get rather annoying sometimes when it seems like you have no control over what your citizens are actually doing. With all that being said, I'll do a quick run through of the pros and cons of the game. The game is $19.99. That's a great little price for the game. The game is engaging for players who like to build and manage cities' economies. The game has a lot of replay value, especially with the map seeds that add a nice variety to the game. And the amount of cards and buildings in the game make it fun and exciting. Now for the cons. The game might run poorly if you've played for a longer amount of time. You might see frame losses or a slowdown around the hour-and-a-half mark. It all depends on your PC. The AI problems can sometimes cause the game to become frustrating or confusing, and there are no outside conflicts or wars to defend against. The final verdict? The game is absolutely recommended, especially if you love building towns or solving problems creatively. I hope this review was helpful to you, and if you found this information on Kingdoms Reborn insightful, please like this video or leave a comment. If you'd like to see more reviews like this, please subscribe and hang out with me as I create more videos on video game theory, game reviews, and a bunch of other stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next video.